How are you today?
Today I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm at a good place in my life at the moment, considering my long history with depression and anxiety, and I've been through a lot of turbulent times, but I'm finally in a place that things are looking quite positive. So.
And how long do you suffer with depression? What is that?
It actually started more with anxiety. So I have a panic disorder, which thanks to CBT therapy has actually gotten a lot better. I don't get panic attacks as often at all anymore. But it started really with the Leaving Cert. I started in the exams getting panic attacks. I was like, my whole future depends on this, even though it doesn't. Yeah. But that's what they kind of brainwash you in school. So yeah, I actually ended up getting put in a special room for people who were freaking out. And I just didn't know what was going on. I didn't know that feeling of almost like, it was kind of like I was dying. That's how it felt. I just didn't know what it was, because there's no education in school about these things. You learn about maths and you learn about that, but you don't learn about the real problems.
Yeah.
So then it kind of got worse, and it was a long route of, I got generalized anxiety. I started having panic attacks every day. I couldn't leave the house, and it ended up turning into depression because of my condition. It was so kind of isolating, and I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. Most people were going out drinking, and I was trying to do that, but it was having such a negative effect. And I started to just feel really, really sad in college. Like, the whole weight of the world was on my shoulders, and I was freaking out about my panic attacks. I thought I had a heart condition, and I was just confused. And it was actually, I went out for tea with my friend, and she turned to me and she was like, do you ever think that you have depression as well? And before then, I didn't want to admit it, because I didn't want to have panic disorder, generalized anxiety and depression. But it made sense, because I was crying every day, like every single day. I was just clearly not myself, not the person I had been before. So it took someone actually saying to me, I think you have depression, for me to accept it. And once I accepted it, things gradually, got better. It wasn't like that, yeah. But, it takes acceptance of your problems to progress them.
Addressing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And was it continuous, like was it happening more regularly, or like was it on and off, like sometimes you'd be okay, or?
Yeah, it's such a tricky disorder and disease, because you kind of sometimes trick yourself into feeling like it's gone away, and then something will happen and it will just come back with a vengeance. And it might be a problem in a relationship or a friendship or something in your family, but it could even just be for no reason. One day you wake up and you can't get out of bed. You're just like, I feel so sad, and I can't even describe why. It's just it's kind of like the complexity of life sometimes that makes me upset. And I'm an overthinker, and I think of all the problems, like of wars and starvation and all these things. I've always just had a big social conscience, and I don't think that helps with depression.
No.
So, like, I can't even describe it. Some people will be like, why are you sad? And I'd be like, why amn't I not sad? Like, I just couldn't explain it always why it was happening.
And did it take you a long time to seek help after you realizing, like, maybe I do have depression?
Honestly, it was one of the best things for me has been being completely open not straight away because I didn't actually know what was wrong with me. But once I accepted that I had anxiety, panic disorder, depression, I seeked help almost immediately because it was so extreme. You know, my problems for me were so extreme that I wasn't living. You know, I was existing, but I wasn't living. So I knew that I had to get treatment straight away. And my parents and my friends my whole family and my friends are really lovely. Like, they help me so much. I'm so lucky for that. If I didn't have them, I don't know where I'd be right now. Like, that's the honest truth. But they pushed me to seek counsellors, and I've had a lot of counsellors, and I've been lucky. A lot of them have really helped me. Some of them haven't, because I think the thing with a counsellor is you have to vibe with them. You know, they have to be understanding, and not everyone clicks with everyone, you know. So it's important that if one counsellor doesn't work for you, to try and find another. And I did in college. I seeked out a counsellor, and that was the first counsellor I had. And then I also did CBT therapy for my panic disorder, which was one of the most amazing things I've done, because it trains your brain to fight back, you know, to think logically. Because one of my problems was I just wasn't thinking logically.
What is CBT, sorry?
It's called cognitive behaviour therapy. So I actually only had 6 sessions, and that was enough for me, because it is expensive. So that's one of the worst things about mental health as well. Not everyone can afford cognitive behaviour therapy, you know. Even for me it was expensive, but luckily I was in a position that I could afford it at the time. But it should be state provided, and it's not. That's the sad thing. But what it is, it's kind of like they train your brain to think logically. So, you know, one of my main problems was when I was getting a panic attack, my heart would start beating really, really fast. And when that was the first symptom. And when I felt that, I'd start thinking I was having a heart attack, and then I'd get more panicked, and then I'd be sweating, and I'd feel faint, and I'd feel sick, and I just, you know, the whole world was crashing in, and like, you just felt so kind of depersonalized from reality. You kind of almost left reality, and everything was a blur. So what they did was they started at the beginning, and they were like, when you feel your heart getting fast, don't freak out, don't think you're going to die, because you're not. A panic attack feels like you might die, but you don't. No one has ever died from a panic attack, but that's just your brain tricking you. So what my CBT therapist said was, think of marathon runners, you know, and their heart is going crazy fast when they run, and they don't die, you know. That's just, it's something that happens. So don't think of it as like a terrible thing that's happening. Just breathe. And once you start focusing on your breath, which is another thing she taught me, just breathe, deep breathe. And it's all about just like taking a moment to realise that the world's not ending.
Yeah. It is your heart racing a lot faster than normal.
Exactly. Yeah.
And after when you realised, like, yes, I have depression, I need to get help, did you go to get help straight away, or did you kind of try to put it off because you didn't want to be like that person that's depressed and looking to get help? You know, the way there's a big stigma about depression.
Yeah, well, like I was saying, I put off accepting that I had depression, because I thought anxiety was not as big a problem as depression. It's like you can't compare them really. I've learned now, because panic disorder is one of the worst things to experience. But in my head, depression was weird. Not weird, but you know, it meant that, you know, it meant suicide, and it meant the end of the world. You know, it wasn't something I wanted to admit to. even though I knew deep down that I had it. So maybe it took a few years of me having depression before I accepted it. And when I accepted it, I told people, and people's first reaction, besides my friend who was really helpful, a lot of, because she had it herself, but a lot of people who haven't experienced it, they kind of don't want you to have it. So, you know, they're like, are you sure? Are you sure you're not just like not exercising enough, or, you know, drinking too much, which is a contributing factor. I think it doesn't help. Alcohol doesn't help anything.
No, it doesn't, no.
But, you know, it's not something that you can talk yourself out of, depression. It's something chemically in your brain that you just have or you don't have. And there is help, and things do get better, and they can get better. But once you have depression, I think, you know, it's always going to be a struggle.
And did you find anyone outside your family and friends, when you said that you might have depression, were they like more approachable? Like, did they allow you to talk about it, or was it just like, you're okay, you know, the way? Yeah,
I think over the years, it's gotten so much better. My friends and family have all accepted it as a part of me, and they've learnt more about it because I suffer so badly, and I'm not the only one, you know, a lot of people suffer from it, and I did find the more I talked about it, the more I realised other people were also suffering from it, and a lot of them, I had no idea they were suffering, and they had no idea I was. But my thing, and I have tried to be, you know, as much of a mental health advocate as possible, because I found that talking helps so much. Once, like, you know, that whole saying, like, a problem shared, can't even remember the quote, but
problem shared, the problem had.
Yes, it's true. Like, all the cliches are true. Like, you're never ever truly alone, as much as it makes you feel like you are alone. And now I'm in a place where, you know, if I don't go to an event because I might be feeling bad that day, people will understand and they'll be okay, and they'll message me and ask me how I am. Whereas at the start, people got annoyed when I didn't turn up for things. You know, they were like, why can't you just come? And I was like, because I can't leave my bed today. I wish I could. I'd love to be having fun all the time, but I can't have fun all the time. It just doesn't work that way.
And what sort of treatment did you, like, you went to psychiatrists, and what sort of treatment did they give you? Like, were you put on any medication, or was it just a case of sitting down and talking to people?
It took me many years before I tried medication, because I've always been a bit of a hippie, to be honest. And I thought, you know, I could tackle it with talking and with yoga and meditation and all these things. So I tried to put off big pharma, you know. I was like, I read too many conspiracy theories about it, and I was like, no, that's not for me. But eventually I had no other option but to try it. And that was last year that I was at the worst point of my life. It was after kind of like I went through a few things, like a breakup, and, you know, just like people I knew were sick, and people I knew had died, and you know, like, I wasn't looking after myself well either. And I lost my job, and I had started studying again to do psychiatry, and I dropped out, even though I thought I could do it. Like, I really wanted to do it, but it wasn't the right time, and all these things kind of just came at the same time.
Yeah, at one time.
And I ended up just spiraling into really, really deep depression. And that's when I went to Pieta House. And I had an amazing counsellor there. But it was the lowest in my life, and I was feeling suicidal. For the first time, I was, you know, maybe I'd had thoughts of that before, but this time I was like, just all I could think about was death. And I actually wrote on my Facebook. I was like, I'm really not feeling well at the moment, if anyone's around to come for tea or something. And actually that helped a lot because people were so responsive.
Yeah.
And people thought it was brave, and you know, I was happy I did it, because I went for walks with random people that I didn't even know that well. And like people were messaging me saying that, you know, they hadn't left their house in a week either, and things like that. And it was like a bonding experience, and you realised how many other people had been through similar things and gotten through it. So that helped. PA to house helped, and medication did help.
Did you think the medication, like, it helped you the period of time when you were taking it?
Yeah, medication's really difficult for me to talk about because I still haven't decided
if you're for or against it. Yeah.
I haven't. I've been on it and off it, and at the moment I am taking medication for depression, but you know, there is side effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it dulls you a bit, and yeah, I'm not even sure what the right medication for me is at the moment either, because I suffer from quite a lot of things. But yeah, you know, it has its place, and it helps some people, and I think it's unfair for people to say no one should try it or no one should do it, because you don't know what works for someone and what doesn't work for other people. I mean, it reminds me of the debate on like smoking weed, because it's like some people say it helps their anxiety and things like that, and other people like me, it made it way worse. And you don't know what other people feel, so you have to just keep in mind that everything works differently for different people. Yeah.
And do you find it easier now talking about depression, or have you always been like that?
I think what's helped me the most through all of this is that I've always been a very open person. I've never been obviously I have it at the start, and it's, yeah, but over the years I've become like just less embarrassed about it and realise it's just nothing to be embarrassed about. It's, you know, you wouldn't be embarrassed if you had cancer, or if you know, you just want to fight it. And there shouldn't be stigma against any physical or mental disorder, because it affects us all, and it will affect us all.
And did your condition have any effect on your family, your relationship with your family?
Yeah, but in a way it's made us closer, I think. I can't say enough positive things about my family. I've been really lucky. And of course, my parents and my sister don't actually suffer from depression themselves, but other family members like have. There has been a history in the line. So yeah, they were understanding, but they didn't completely understand it at the beginning. But they've tried, and now they know. So, you know, they've done so much research, and they've been there for me through like hospital visits and emergency room visits, PA to house, me crying for hours and having panic attacks. Like, they've seen it all, and they've been with me every step of the way. So I've been lucky.
And do you think that's because you decided to share what you're feeling with them, as in like you didn't keep it in the dark from them?
Yeah, I think that was really important, because I think suicide happens when you feel alone, and you feel scared, and it is scary, and it is lonely. Depression's very lonely and scary, but it gets easier when you share it, when you open up about it, and I think that's why I'm here today, to be honest.
And if you don't mind, can you just describe maybe your worst day being depressed, when you're feeling like, what would be your typical worst day, as in when you wake up type of thing?
Yeah.
Like, what would it worse they feel like for you?
So, I guess in my worst period, which was a while ago now, I'm definitely in a way steadier place at the moment. But during my worst period, I literally just couldn't stop crying, and then I got so numb that I couldn't even cry anymore. I couldn't move. I couldn't get out of my bed. I felt like my skin was crawling almost. I wanted to like remove myself from my body. And I remember I've never been like an angry person at all. I internalized my anger towards myself almost. That's why I get so down about myself. But like, I remember my mom was like, start punching a pillow, because I just needed to do something, you know, and it actually did work a little bit just to get emotion out. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, just energy, like just to do something, you know, because that was all I could do. I couldn't even, you know, people say go for a walk, but sometimes you can't physically even go for a walk. But, you know, talking, having a cup of tea, even herbal tea, because I can't really have caffeine. That's like a first step. And then maybe going for a walk is a second step. Having a shower, just little things. And once you start doing the little things, you start feeling a little bit more human and more back to reality.
Do you ever have the fear of slipping back to that place again, or?
Yeah, I do, definitely. I haven't talked about this, but may as well, because like it's good to. But I actually had an episode last year. I was on my medication for depression, and I just didn't care. I was just so sad. I'd kind of like given up. So I ended up taking a drug, and I drank, and you're not meant to drink on antidepressants, so you're definitely not meant to take, you know, it was quite an extreme drug, well, not like hallucinogenic type thing that I didn't even really know what it was. But I ended up in hospital with like drug-induced psychosis almost. And then they were like maybe you're bipolar. I don't know yet. They don't know. I don't think I am personally. Yeah. I think it was one episode. But I ended up in St. James's in the in the clinic for mental health there, and I was there for a few weeks until I wasn't myself. I was just like, it was terrifying. Like I was just in a different world, and I think people were afraid I wouldn't become myself again, but I did. Yeah. I got out of it, and I haven't experienced anything like that since. But that was, I'm afraid now something like that will happen again. I would never touch drugs again, to be honest. Like, well, you never say never, but you know. Yeah, I know what I can't do.
Yeah.
I don't really drink that much anymore either, and I do, you know, I swim, I do all the healthy stuff, and I have a good lifestyle now. So I'm positive. I'm keeping positive that my really bad times won't come back. But you know, you don't know. But I'm almost more scared of that type of episode than the depressive episode. I don't know, they're both as bad as each other, to be honest. But the word bipolar scares me, because I don't really like labeling things like that, you know, because no one actually knows for sure yet. Because I've only had one high. So, you know, it's so kind of like you can't pinpoint everyone's mental health like that, because it's yeah, and it takes kind of decades to figure yourself out completely. But yeah, I am afraid that I'll experience something like that again, or experience the deep depression again. But I haven't in over a year now. Yeah, it's just gone a year, and you know, I have my bad days, but I've changed my lifestyle, which has really helped.
What sort of thing you doing to keep your mind healthy?
I try to keep busy. I do quite a lot of work. Well, I have done quite a lot of work with mental health. I've worked for, you know, an organisation called Reach Out, which kind of promotes positive mental health for young people. And I've, you know, been to conferences with them. I've written articles, you know, just things like that. I write a lot. I write, yeah, I write a lot of poetry. So I've kind of done some readings of that at different things, and I swim a lot and do a bit of yoga. I've travelled on my own a lot as well, which has really, you know, it's a scary thing.
Yeah, it is.
But it's actually helped me so much. And I'm not saying it's for everyone, but I am quite a adventurous person. Yeah, so I ended up going on a yoga retreat to India on my own, which was amazing. And then recently, a few months ago, I went to Mexico on my own. In college, I did a charity trip to Honduras where we implemented clean water systems. So things like that have really, you know, opened my mind and made me realise it's not all about the partying. That
there's more. You
know, there's so much more. Like, you almost get more from kind of giving as well, and sharing your stories. And I feel best with myself when I'm doing things like that, not when I'm, you know, getting drunk.
Giving back, if you like, doing something for other people.
Exactly. And like at the moment, I've just started a internship with a human rights organisation called ATD, and it kind of focus on eliminating poverty, and we work a lot with, you know, people from the inner city and homeless people, people with addictions, travellers, things like that. So I'm really excited to move forward with that.
I know you mentioned Pieta House, and what places do you go visit, like when you're trying to get help for your depression? You went to Pieta House. Is there any other organisation you went to visit?
Well, not particularly. I got a lot of help online, actually, because that was when I was kind of researching my symptoms. And
find out what it is.
Yeah, I don't think it's all good. Like, you don't want to go too deep into like WebMD, you know, like things that are like, you're about to die. But I got help. Spun Out's website was amazing. I don't know if you know that, the Spun Out, but they have just like articles on everything, advice on everything. It's so good. I ended up writing a few articles for them as well, like one on my personal story, one called If He Thinks He's Bob Dylan, You Should Probably Avoid Him, which was about narcissistic men. So I got a lot of help in that. Then I got involved with Reach Out, and they were amazing as well. And then I think though there's not enough places. Do you know? There's a lot of good charities and little things, even things like this, which are coming up, you know, and encouraging people to be open about their struggles, and that's great. But there should be more government implemented things, in my opinion.
You don't think there's enough being done?
No, I don't. To be honest, like from
experience.
I've actually on 2 occasions I ended up in the emergency room, because I was just feeling quite suicidal. You know, I wasn't planning on doing it it was just I couldn't stop thinking about it, but I knew I just needed something, you know.
Yeah.
I needed to do something. I couldn't stay in my house. So my parents brought me to the emergency room, and I don't know why I bothered going a second time, because the first time was bad enough. You know, the nurses and the doctors are amazing. Like, I have so much respect for them, but it's not their fault that the queues are so long. Like, I ended up just queuing for hours.
Yeah.
And then I finally got, you know, response. I was talking to the nurse and whatever, and they were like, it's gonna be another like few hours before like any kind of psychiatrist could come. So I just left, because I'd been there like 10 hours or something ridiculous, and I left feeling worse than when I came, to be honest, you know. And it's, again, I just want to go over the fact that it's definitely not the nurse or doctor's fault, it's the system's fault for not having enough resources.
Not being provided.
Yeah, because it's, you know, so many people each year take their own lives, and Ireland's not doing too well in that category.
I think it's third highest in Europe.
I think so, yeah. It's something really shocking, and especially I think for men who feel the stigma of having to, you know, keep it to themselves. You know, I think in terms of feminism, I think it works both ways, and one of the ways that it should work for men is that they should be encouraged to speak, because I think it's like there's a lot more male suicides. I can't remember the figures, but I think maybe education is one of the most important.
Education.
Yeah, like like I was saying, I didn't know what was wrong with me when I first started to get panic attacks, because they'd never taught me about it. I had to go online, you know,
to find out what was happening.
Exactly. There should. I always think about this. You know, the way like there's the class SPHE, but that fits so many big things, like, you know, health and politics and social.
Yeah.
If into one class that you get like once every few weeks or something. Do you know, like, why are all those huge topics, you know, condensed to one class that's not very regular? Whereas you do about 10 maths classes a week or whatever. And like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with maths, but not everyone has that type of brain in the first place, you know. And this is something that affects everyone. Yeah. So I think that's what the first step, what they should do. And there should be more just services like Pieta House that are run by the government. Because I think Pieta House saves a lot of lives. And they're not funded by the government, are they? I don't think. No.
Partly, I'm not 100%
I don't think so. No. So yeah, that's my question for the government. And this, I've done a lot of a few interviews, like for the Independent and for RT shows. And you know, nothing against the journalists or anything. I studied media in college, and I know it's the people at the top that it's called hegemony. I think that journalists have to self-censor what they say. So when I say something that's kind of anti-government, it's not put in.
Yeah.
You know, and that has annoyed me, and I'm not blaming anyone in particular. Yeah. I'm just saying that there's a lot more work that needs to be done, and people need to start listening to each other and people who've experienced family members or friends who've committed suicide. You know, those people shouldn't be forgotten. The people that have died should not be forgotten, because we have to work in their names to better the system, so that, you know, needless tragedies stop happening.
And if anyone watching this that's going through depression, what you went through, like what kind of advice would you give them?
Don't give up is the main one. That things are never truly as bad as they seem, because there's always hope, and like I was saying, the cliches are true, and things can get better, and you can look back and be in a completely different place in a few years. So be open, talk, express yourself, never feel afraid to say what's on your mind, don't be embarrassed, all those things. And just to remember that, like, you're important, you know, everyone is so important, and you're not, unless reincarnation is real, I don't know, but you know, you might only get one life, so try your best to live it fully.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Today.